built over and over again. I made these.
So what's up, guys?
Love the artwork, man.
FBI.
Some people really dislike me for knowing
No, it's backing up.
Fireplace, man. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
See that? There we go.
Raise prices, but at the same time, I've turned down more money than most people ever see in life. And everything that I've been able to achieve, our team has been able to achieve up to now, has been done independently, and we've never taken any investment. And that's not to say that things aren't going to change, but we've stuck to our guns, and we're still here.
Intense spirit is why.
So thanks for having me. It's an honor, and I'm really grateful to be here. Every second, every breath.
It's an honor to have you here, bro. Thanks, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's doing it right.
So the history of Mendo Breath. The adventure of Mendo Breath begins in a Berkeley apartment. The year is 2011. Matt, the rock climber, happened to live one story above me in the apartments I lived in West Berkeley, west of Shattuck. Turned out he was smoking some bomb. Some of the most impressive cookies I'd ever seen at the time. Come to find out, he was a part-time trimmer, part-time rock climber. And he was trimming for an individual in San Francisco named NorCal. I asked him about it. He's like, "Yeah, I trim for NorCal." I said, "I know NorCal. I've seen him on the forums. That was where everyone was hanging out at the time." So long story short, he put me in touch with NorCal, who lived in the Sunset District of San Francisco at the time, which is an area I'm pretty familiar with. He lived in a beautiful Victorian house. I spent the whole summer in the Sunset District with my cousin while I was like working for a summer camp as a counselor, and this is where I learned to drive as a 15-year-old. So it's like, it was always nice going to visit NorCal. At the time, I had been put on to the whole blasting scene of BHO. Around 2009 to about 2012, probably a little before that, BHO basically floated the boat. And I was able to process a lot of NorCal's trim because he had a bunch of stuff sitting around, and I happened to have the skill set. And those who don't know, NorCal is an amazing grower. He has a different style from my typical organic methods, but very few people on this planet can push cannabis to the potential that I've seen NorCal do it. And his pictures of OGKB are proof alone. There's just nobody that can do it better. And so I've learned a lot from him, and is really grateful to have met him. So what is OGKB? OGKB was a pheno-hunted variety of what they would call Girl Scout cookies. OGKB was named after an individual named OG Kush Breath. OG Kush Breath was a grower, and he had gone through tons of seeds to look for the OGKB. NorCal happened to be his friend, and at a time of need, he was able to help rescue the plants out of the warehouse before an inspection, I believe, and that saved all the plants, and OGKB basically gave him all the strains. I don't think he even knew what he had at the time, but over the course of a year or two, through the ICMag forums, NorCal basically demonstrated what the potential of OGKB was, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. I was smoking it. I helped NorCal introduce OGKB to the world. We signed a contract that said we would partner on any seeds that we made with the OGKB, and we would co-promoted to the world. And so, does anybody not know what OGKB is? Or
I
has
love
not heard of it?
OGKB.
So it's just a very rare phenotype, right? And a select cut that grows gnarly, almost mutated, with these like thick, dark green alligator leaves and these dense single colas that is just incredibly, incredibly desirable. And at that time, there was maybe only a handful of people that had it in the entire world. When I posted it on the Instagram and started promoting it, this is really when the falling out between with Burner and Jigga began, and it continues to this day. There are companies out there that are using our name and our trademarks. Archive Seeds also partnered with NorCal at this time, and this is when the Do-Si-Do crosses were made. So the Do-Si-Do, the Mendo breath, and then the Grateful breath were the first 3 OGKB crosses ever made and ever introduced to the world, and that's partly why they had the head start, I guess you could say, and they kind of were able to cement their name in the lineage.
Right.
Only a few seeds were made of Mendo breath in Oakland. This was up in the Oakland Hills around 2011. And going back and looking at all these dates has really helped refresh my memory, and it's pretty cool. So the OGKB is really hard to make seeds from. It's super dense. It likes to squeeze the seeds together, so you end up actually just getting deformed seeds that don't germinate. So out of the entire Mendo breath F1 first generation cross that we may have only gotten about 40 seeds. Half of it went to NorCal, half of it was kept in-house. I grew them, and NorCal grew them in San Francisco. The first F1 selections out of the handful of seeds created the ultraviolet, which was disseminated in the Bay Area. At the time, I had a warehouse on International Boulevard in East Oakland. This is where I pheno hunted the Mendo breath F1s and the Grateful breath F1s, where we found the males and females that ended up becoming critical to the F2 process. Going back through my photos, the first Mendo breath photo that was ever taken was in 2012. And if you go to the real GageGreenGroup page, right now you can see the picture. And it's clear that this photo taken in 2012 almost would still compete. It still competes in the market today. There's actually very few plants and strains today that can compete with that. And this was back in 2012. This was the stuff we were growing and why it attracted so much attention. Just the bud structure, just the color, the density itself was enough to convince people that there was something going on. International Boulevard gets robbed, and I shut it down. And this was pretty much the end of the Bay Area Oakland for me. Then begins the Mendocino chapter of my life. I wrote a multi-page article about Microlife's Photosynthesis Plus product, which is a purple bacteria product that helps for natural farming. I was one of the first writers to write about microbial applications, probiotic applications to cannabis. And so it caught the attention. I became a speaker for the Organic Cup. We ended up speaking 3 years in a row. I was part of the planning committee. I met another business partner of mine who I started the probiotic farming movement with, and we started the Probiotic Farmers Alliance and Grokashi, which is a Bokashi brand. Unfortunately, even though I did all the business development, startup piece, pretty much the majority of the work on the business side, I was not ever paid a dime. And these companies and operations still exist without my involvement. Luckily, I was able to acquire this Cherry Pie Kush, which many of you know is the predecessor to cherry pie and cookies, another thorn in Burner's side. in Mendocino, I met amazing people. I spread incredible genetics, you know, made a lot of connections there. While I was living in Mendocino, I stayed in a Rastafarian priest's house, and we made the F2s, which I was able to make the Holy Stick, which is probably one of my favorite Mendo bread crosses. If anybody ever sees it out there, pick it up. It's made with a blue pheno of the Mendo bread called the Comeback, because it came back from the dead, and it smelled like incense and was the first strain to put me in a trance. And so that was kind of like a bar that was set. Like, if this weed didn't put me in a trance, you know, wasn't good enough. We also made the Breathwork, which is a cross with the Mendo Breath and the Grateful Breath, which were selected in Oakland on International. Made the Benevolence, made the High School Sweetheart, Grateful Breath, Out of Body Experience, a lot of the stuff that ended up being used by breeders like in-house to start their lines. So after I realized I wasn't getting paid by Alan, I started looking into other opportunities. There was opportunities opening up in Oregon at the time, opportunities opening up in Washington. So basically, I was going around exploring potential allies, I guess, and we were doing projects all over. A little bit about the Oregon stop. That didn't work out too well. I went from Mendocino to Oregon only to find out that the grow partner I was working with was a pill popping piece of shit. And so I didn't settle down in Eugene and had my eyes set on Michigan. I mean, I'd been coming here for multiple years. This was about 2014 when someone offered us a spot to live, a partnership on a seed bank, and the grass was greener here. I mean, honestly, I was coming from droughts and fires, and like limited water, rationing water, and all types of terrible things. So we came to Michigan, and it was just heaven on earth. And the organic farmers here are amazing. We love it here. I just love the boutique community. The weed is better here than in California on average. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
So make some noise for Michigan. You guys are killing it. Okay, so around the same time, I have an Amsterdam distribution, or actually I have a England distribution for seeds. The guy kind of gets sick, so I'm introduced to a guy through Delta 9 Labs. This guy used to work for Soma Seeds. His name was Callum from Amsterdam. He agreed to take over our distribution, and so he got all my products from the UK and brought them to Amsterdam. Well, come to find out, this individual was also an addict and was planning on stealing from me.
Me too, man.
And we suffered a huge loss. And one of the reasons why my collaboration in Mendo Bread, my collaborating partner, NorCal, and I didn't speak for the longest time. Keep in mind, we didn't really release Mendo Bread. There wasn't enough seeds to sell. And after that, we didn't have the Mendo Bread male to recreate it. So what we actually had was a big batch of Grateful Breath, about 80 packs, that I had sent to the UK and ended up being in Amsterdam. Well, unfortunately, before we were ever able to sell a single pack, they were all stolen, including thousands and thousands of dollars in our European seed stock. It was a big loss, and honestly, I feel responsible for a lot of it. And now NorCal and I are speaking again, and we're working together, coming up with new collaborative partnerships. But for a while there was a touchy subject. Another tragedy occurs in Seattle. While exploring opportunities in Washington, I partnered with a licensed grow and a kind of a caregiver dude. And the caregiver grower was supposed to oversee the pheno hunts and the breeding projects that we had started out. And also the individual was helping us distribute GageGreen genetics in Washington. We pheno hunted the F2s and we made F3s. So this is in Washington. We were able to make the Mendo Breath F3 projects. We were able to cross the forum with the Mendo Breath, and we made the floor root. We made the Hammerhead, which is a Seattle sour cross with the Mendo, and we made some lemon montage crosses as well. Well, theft and betrayal followed. It really wasn't long before the entire seed stock and all the wholesale orders that I ever fronted to this guy basically were stolen, and I was never paid back for. An entire breed line, an entire seed company was started from those F3 seeds and those Mendo Breath seeds and the GageGreen genetics that I've given to this guy. They were renamed Evergreen, and a company called Frost City Gardens began selling these seeds. Until this day, there's no mention that they are Mendo Breath. Another tragedy strikes in Michigan. In the summer of 2017, on the weekend right before the High Times Cannabis Cup, a team of Flint Area Narcotics Group storms the house. I lose everything. A decade of breeding, seeds, collection, mothers, everything, all the money. Where I was facing up to 20 years in jail and millions of dollars in fines. I lost everything, set me back years. What I ended up doing in this situation was turn the 20 lighter and downsized it to a 3 lighter. I thought to myself, Mike, if you can't do a 3 lighter correct, then you don't really deserve to run the 20 lighter. And if you can't pay your bills with a 3 lighter, like everyone else getting started, then then who were you? So I turned off the lights, most of the lights, turned on 3 lights, and I focused on perfecting the craft. And this is the beginning of the biodome, the perfecting of the organics. When I turned the lights on, I don't know how my lawyer found out, but he called me and said, Mike, I heard you turn your lights back on. This was a month after we got raided. Well, during this time, I took a kind of a forced sabbatical, and I guess it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because this was really the rise in the industry breeding with Mendo Breath. For a while, the way I saw it was all the Michigan breeders and a lot of the people that I considered my friends and people who were on my team just began using my word to build their inventory and their time and their collections. One individual that everyone knows is famous for this is Gromer, Thug Pug. He took the Mendo Breath and crossed it to everything. At the time, I mean, from a third party, it might seem like, oh yeah, whatever. But he actually messaged me and he told me that his intention was to ruin my brand and company, knowing that I had just gotten raided too. At first I was upset. I kind of saw it as just, at the minimum, disrespectful. And I realized it was breeding that could be predatory. But I was upset at first, but I no longer see it that way. Obviously, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And if someone is really intentionally trying to bring down my vibe, like, the last thing I'm gonna do is let them. So actually, he helped spread the Mendo Breath throughout the world, which is amazing. And in fact, it ended up going into the hands of Third Coast Genetics, where they made the Pure Michigan, which is a phenomenal cut that is transforming the landscape today. It got in the hands of Fresh Coast and made the White Truffle through the Peanut Butter Breath. And it's pretty much found all over the world. The impact of Mendo Breath at this point is undeniable. It's seen in every dispensary, as you mentioned. I did some research last night. Mentioned in High Times, Skunk Magazine, Cannabis Now, shout out Jimmy, Divine, Westword, Detroit Metro Times, shout out Chris, Complex, and Forbes. actually multiple mentions in Forbes. High Times gave it a top 10 strain of 2016. It's won countless awards. Just had to go online and search. It's grown by practically every top company in the nation, all across the world. The question is, who hasn't grown it? Or who hasn't grown something related to the Mendo breath? I mean, every caregiver from boutique all the way to the companies that are multi-state operators have been influenced by Mendo breath in one way or another. A lot of the brands that I saw coming up and brands that I respect or have admired over the years, Corova, Cali, Lowell, Belief from Oklahoma, Matrix from Nevada, Finest from Sacramento, Kiva, the chocolate guys are using Mendo breath. Raise your hand if you've seen Mendo breath at a dispensary or store or some kind of hybrid of it. Grown it too?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
They keep that in the back room.
Breeders that have touched Mendo breath include Thug Pug, In-House, Symbiotic Genetics. A lot of these people actually, before they started their breeding outfits, were people that I sent seeds to and helped me test and helped me showcase the work of GageGreenGroup. So lots of respect and shout out to these guys and infinite gratitude, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am. Symbiotic Genetics, Sunken Treasure Seeds, Third Coast Genetics, Fresh Coast Genetics, Mass Medical, and of course, Mendo Dope Boys. I want to thank Mendo Dope Boys for bringing the energy back to the Mitten, giving me an opportunity to be here and speak about this. They got the Dope Breath, they got the Gringo Loco, they got the Shadow Band, which is something we have in common, I guess. The Mendo breath is being utilized by growers and musicians and artists, people that I admired when I was a nobody. I mean, have you seen Mendo Dope Boys and their videos and their their trees? So all these cuts, these Mendo breath strains and their new varieties are going to be available at our Seed Bank International. So definitely stay tuned. It's an honor to be able to represent them, see them come full circle, and to see Mendo breath utilized by people that I have just deep admiration for. It's a true honor. Other notable creations with the Mendo breath, pretty much every strain with the word breath in it. Meat breath, garlic breath, Sophie's breath, peanut butter breath, jelly breath, punch breath, deep breath, unicorn poop, GMO, pure Michigan, white truffle, anaphylaxis, and many more. Actually, anaphylaxis is not a direct descendant, but has the peanut butter breath in it, I believe, which has Dosey and Mendo breath, and won third place at the organic cup that we threw a couple years ago. So shout outs to Mass Medical. Most of these creations are either made in Michigan or made in relationship or with someone in Michigan and are now famous worldwide. I mean, these are some of the most cutting edge strains now, and they come from Michigan. So honestly, give yourself a round of applause, Michigan. Like, you guys killed it with the Mendo breath and are really taking it to another level. So thank you guys. Woo! So where is Mendo breath today? Ever since the raid in 2017, I've been working with the Breathwork male, which is Mendo breath, Grateful breath. I've crossed it to every good female. I crossed it to the GMO, which then was actually utilized by Mamico Seeds in Spain to cross back to the Chem cookies, which is the original creation of GMO garlic cookies. And they made their regular backcross version with my Birds of Fire GMO breathwork. That's available at Seed Bank International. I made one of my most favorite strains is the Miles Ahead. That's a Triangle Kush breathwork, Grateful breath breathwork. Mendo breath, Grateful breath, I mean. So I mentioned Third Coast already, but who knows Third Coast Genetics? Yeah? So dude is legit, and he's taken Pure Michigan, which is an Oreos Mendo breath cross, and just taken over the world with it. A new batch of seeds was released on Cinco de Mayo by Third Coast, and in the list was a Pure Michigan back cross, and that was a collaboration between him and I. I gave him the Mendo breath cut. He crossed it to the Pure Michigan, which already has Oreos and Mendo breath in it. So now we got a 75% Mendo breath seeds that are available on Seed Bank International now. Highly recommend getting them. We also carry the clones and the seeds on Seed Bank International and Legit Genetics. Work directly with Third Coast. You're getting the most authentic seeds. So it's really awesome to be able to work with a lot of these guys that have taken Mendo breath to the next level, and to be able to see their reinterpretation, see where they take it, how they posture it, and the amazing results that they're getting is just a real blessing. Today we passed out some seeds of the Beethoven, which is the Mendo breath diesel cross that I just made. We passed out the Holy Water, which is the Mendo breath times breath, which is the Cherry Pie Kush BX. We passed out some Demon Slayer. As you know, I've had to encounter some demons recently. And this was a Mendo breath cross with a Triangle Kush back cross. Also recently released a 1-of-1 Mendo Fruit, which is the Mendo breath crossed with the Triangle Kush breath work. Got a few more plants and drops up my sleeve, ready to come out. I mentioned that it was difficult keeping a mom and maintaining clones while I was moving from Mendocino to Oregon to Michigan. Well, during that time, I had a few people watching over my clone library, and I'm sure at this time some of it was stolen, I guess. But recently, somebody messaged me and said, "Hey, Mike, I have a Grateful Breath cut that belonged to you and that was stolen from you." So I got that clone back and have been breeding with her, and I'm crossing her to the breath work, which is Mendo breath and Grateful Breath. So we're gonna have a Grateful Breath BX with a Mendo breath outcross. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's coming up soon. We'll be sharing more about it. Anyways, there's always going to be something new. We're always reinventing. We're always trying to keep it fresh. I mean, I've had to reinvent myself like a million times in this industry. Now, I partner with a nursery, Legit Genetics, and I'm working with new phenos of Mendo breath. Currently a tightly held commercial variety that's super fast flowering and incredibly high yield and commercially viable. So breed projects and new projects and clones will be coming soon. So the Mendo breath, I mean, it's transformed my life. It's transformed the lives of many growers and breeders. It's definitely impacted the lives of many people out there. It's going to be a classic forever. It's not going away. How did it get to where it is today? I have no idea. Sheer luck. Never giving up. Maybe. Had anything gone more wrong, or had I given up? Had I not continued? Had they not dropped lower, reduced my charges from 20 years, I wouldn't be here. And if it weren't for my team and the loving people around me that supported me and helped me even when I was at the lowest lows, and it's always drama, there wouldn't be this. If it weren't for the haters and the antagonizers and the copycats and the counterfeiters and the fans and the supporters and all the love, I mean, things that just wouldn't have turned out the same. The question is, why Mendo breath? don't know. But you know the story. You know what I went through. You know more details than I've ever divulged ever about this topic. Maybe it's up to one of you guys to figure out through the strings, the string of events and the history and just the story behind Mendo bread. Maybe one of you will figure out how to create the next viral clip. Maybe we'll discover the next pillar to what is gonna carry Michigan to the next level. Maybe it'll be through the Mendo breath, maybe it won't. Probably will be something completely different. But it's just it was just a perfect topic for discussion today because we're here celebrating Mendo in the Mitten. They got Mendo dope boys. They got Mendo breath seeds. We got Mendo breath smoke, and I happen to be invited, so it's truly an honor to be here. Thanks everybody for having me. I hope you guys learned something from this talk, and truly appreciate everybody's support. And I love you guys, and hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening.
You gotta like the clouds in the background. Which one? Just the clouds.
Oh, yeah, everything is good, man. It's really cool. You did a nice job. Yeah.